You probably touch it hundreds of times a day, but I bet you almost never stop to think about what's actually happening inside that simple piece of glass. Well, today, we're peeling back the layers on the one piece of tech that, more than any other, connects our physical world to the digital one, the touchscreen.
I mean, really think about it for a second. You tap, and an app opens. You swipe, and a whole new world scrolls by. You pinch, and the entire globe zooms in. It feels completely natural, right? Almost like an extension of your own thoughts. But what is really going on in that split second? How does a totally lifeless piece of glass know exactly what you want it to do?
Well, you guessed it. It's not magic, but the real answer is honestly way more interesting. It's this brilliant story of physics, electricity, and some incredibly clever engineering. And in this explainer, we are going to break down every last secret. Okay, so to really get how the screen in your hand works today, we first have to rewind the clock. The journey from these clunky, old-school sensors to the sleek glass we know is actually a pretty fascinating one. Yeah, this technology didn't just appear out of nowhere with the first smartphone. Its story is this slow-burning evolution built over decades by innovators who were dreaming about this stuff long before we were actually living with it. Let's just walk through the big moments. It all kicks off way back in 1965 with the very first concept of a finger-driven screen. But the first huge breakthrough comes in '74, when Dr. Samuel Hurst figured out how to make it transparent. I mean, that's kind of important, right? So you can see what you're touching. Fast forward to 1994, and it finally lands on a mobile device, the IBM Simon. But the real earthquake, the moment that truly changed everything, was in 2006. That's when LG released a phone with a capacitive screen. And that one shift is the entire reason your phone works the way it does today. All right, so that history lesson brings us right to the core of it all. How does a screen actually feel your touch? Well, it really just boils down to two main competing technologies, what you could call the two titans of touch. So on one side, you've got resistive screens. This is the old guard, and they work by feeling physical pressure. On the other side, you've got capacitive screens, the modern champion, which work by sensing the natural electricity in your own body. Okay, this slide shows the difference perfectly. Look at the resistive screen on the left. See how the finger has to physically push a flexible layer down until it makes contact with another layer? It's all about force. But now look at the right, the capacitive screen. There's no pushing at all. Your finger just gets close and it disturbs an invisible electric field. It's kind of like the difference between pushing a doorbell and walking past a motion sensor. Just think of a resistive screen as a sort of pressure sandwich. You've got two thin conductive layers with a tiny air gap in between. When you press down, you physically mash those two layers together. The device then sees a change in the electrical flow at that one specific spot and figures out exactly where you pushed. Now, the capacitive screen, this is where the real genius comes in. The glass has this transparent layer that holds a constant, steady electrical charge. And here's the cool part. Your body is naturally conductive. So when your finger gets close, you actually pull a tiny bit of that charge away from the screen and towards you. Sensors at the corners of the screen instantly detect where that little electrical dip happened and pinpoint the spot. No pressure needed, just pure physics. So as you can see, there are really clear trade-offs here. Resistive screens? Yeah, they're cheaper, and you can use anything to touch them, a gloved hand, a pen, whatever. But the screen looks a little fuzzy, and that top layer gets scratched up easily. Capacitive screens are way more durable, much clearer, and here it is, the killer feature. They support multi-touch. That one line is basically why capacitive technology completely won the smartphone war. But that multi-touch feature wasn't just another bullet point on a list. It was an absolute revolution. The ability to track more than one finger at the same time is what unlocked the entire modern smartphone experience we know. Let's dig into how. Seriously, detecting one tap was amazing, but being able to track 2, 3, or even 10 fingers at once, that changed everything. And this incredible leap forward comes from a technology called projected capacitive, or PCAP. It's the engine that powers pretty much every touch gesture we use today. Now, this is really cool because it shows you what's happening under the glass. A PCAP screen has this invisible grid of sensors. When you touch it, each one of your fingers creates its own little disruption in that electrical field, almost like a mountain popping up on a 3D map. The controller is smart enough to see and track each of those peaks totally independently all at the same time. And that is the result. All those gestures we do without even thinking about it, pinching a photo to zoom in, stretching a map to see more, swiping through a feed, they are only possible because the screen can track each of those separate little electrical peaks from your fingers all at once. Okay, so if we've come this far, from simple pressure to tracking 10 fingers at once,
Where is this technology going next? What is the future of touch actually going to feel like? And believe me, the evolution is not stopping. The next big goal for engineers is to basically make the screen disappear entirely, to embed this tech so seamlessly into the world around us that we stop thinking about devices and start just thinking about interactive surfaces everywhere.
We're already seeing three huge trends taking shape. First, designs that bake the touch sensor right into the display itself, which makes our phones and tablets way thinner. Second, the rise of flexible and bendable screens, which is just going to blow the doors open for new designs like foldables and wearables. And third, the big push for truly edge-to-edge displays, creating one single, uninterrupted interactive surface.
So, we've gone on this journey from a simple, physical push to a subtle dance with an invisible field of energy. It's been an absolutely incredible evolution. But as screens keep changing, getting flexible, transparent, maybe even disappearing altogether, it leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to think about. What will we interact with next?